Here, in our world, on a bright September morning in 2001, the course of human history was violently altered. The sky was a brilliant, cloudless blue over the eastern United States, yet this serene backdrop was soon shattered by acts of unimaginable terror. 19 men, affiliated with the extremist group Al-Qaeda, hijacked 4 commercial airliners. Their mission was one of destruction, aimed at iconic symbols of American power and prosperity. 2 of these great metal birds were flown directly into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. The world watched in disbelief and horror as these titans of glass and steel burned and then, one by one, collapsed into dust and memory. The devastation did not end in Manhattan. A 3rd plane was crashed into the Pentagon. It tore a fiery gash into the side of the formidable building, a stark and brutal message. The 4th plane, United Airlines Flight 93, met a different, though equally tragic fate. Let us now step away from the known path of history. Let us imagine a world where the morning of September 11th, 2001 unfolded like any other Tuesday. The planes that were hijacked in our reality land safely at their destinations. Thousands of people who went to work in the World Trade Center return home to their families that evening. Thousands who worked at the Pentagon return home that evening. The passengers of Flight 93 arrive in San Francisco, their journey uneventful. In this alternate timeline, the day passes without incident. A simple forgotten date on the calendar. The profound trauma that shaped our modern consciousness simply never occurs. The world continues on a trajectory we can only guess at. Without the seismic shock of 9/11, the global mood at the dawn of the 21st century would have remained one of cautious optimism. The Cold War was a decade in the past. The digital revolution was connecting the world in unprecedented ways. Economic globalization, the rise of China as a world power, lingering conflicts in the Balkans and parts of Africa. Terrorism would be seen as a regional, containable problem. The unity of grief and purpose that swept the globe would not have materialized the same way. The architecture of our modern security state was built upon the foundations of 9/11. In our world, the response was immediate and transformative. Airport security, once a relatively simple process, became a complex, multi-layered system overnight. The creation of the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, standardized rigorous screening procedures. Those procedures were soon adopted in various forms around the globe. Suddenly, removing shoes became a routine part of air travel. Limiting liquids in carry-on luggage became standard. Undergoing full-body scans became common. These measures, now deeply ingrained in our travel habits, would seem entirely alien and excessive in a world where 9/11 never happened. Without the catalyst of such a large-scale, coordinated attack on civilian aviation, the evolution of airport security would have been much more gradual. Changes would likely have been driven by smaller-scale incidents or technological advancements rather than a massive reactive overhaul. We might see more sophisticated baggage screening technology, but it is highly unlikely that the passenger experience would have changed so dramatically. The concept of fortified cockpit doors would not have been universally mandated with such urgency. The freedom of movement and the relative ease of travel that characterized the 20th century would have largely persisted beyond the airport. The very structure of national security underwent a radical reorganization. In the United States, the Department of Homeland Security was established in 2002. The aftermath of 9/11 ushered in a fierce and enduring debate about the delicate balance between security and liberty. In the United States, this was most starkly embodied by the passage of the USA Patriot Act just weeks after the attacks. This sweeping legislation dramatically expanded the surveillance powers of law enforcement and intelligence agencies. Enhanced monitoring of phone communications, enhanced monitoring of email communications, the collection of business records, roving wiretaps, often with reduced judicial oversight. The law was presented as a necessary tool to hunt down terrorists, but it was met with immediate concern from civil liberties advocates who warned of its potential for government overreach and abuse. In a world where 9/11 did not happen, the Patriot Act would never have been written. The political will and public support for such a rapid and extensive expansion of government surveillance powers would have been entirely absent. The legal landscape governing privacy and government monitoring would have evolved along a much different, more cautious trajectory. The most direct and visible consequence of the September 11th attacks was the declaration of a global war on terror. This paradigm shift in foreign policy, led by the United States, defined the international landscape for decades. It began with the invasion of Afghanistan in October 2001, aimed at dismantling al-Qaeda and overthrowing their hosts, the Taliban regime. This was followed by the highly contentious invasion of Iraq in 2003, justified by claims, later proven false, that Saddam Hussein's government possessed weapons of mass destruction and had ties to terrorist organizations. These two conflicts dominated US foreign policy, costing trillions of dollars and resulting in hundreds of thousands of lives lost. In an alternate history, these wars would almost certainly not have happened in the way they did. Without the 9/11 attacks, there would have been no public mandate or international support for a full-scale invasion of Afghanistan. The 9/11 attacks profoundly reshaped global diplomacy. In the immediate aftermath, there was an unprecedented outpouring of global sympathy, famously encapsulated by the headline in a French newspaper, "Nous sommes tous Américains." This solidarity led to NATO invoking its Collective Defense Clause, Article 5, for the first and only time, committing member states to aid the United States. This initial unity soon gave way to deep divisions, particularly over the 2003 invasion of Iraq, opposed by allies like France and Germany, creating a transatlantic rift. Without 9/11, early 21st century diplomacy would have been far less volatile. The unifying force of a common enemy would be absent, and so would the divisive war on terror. US-European relations would likely have evolved more smoothly, focused on economic partnership, NATO's expansion into Eastern Europe, and managing the rise of Russia under Vladimir Putin. Countries wouldn't face intense pressure to choose sides, allowing more nuanced, independent foreign policies. Imagining a world without the shadow of 9/11 allows us to envision a different trajectory for our technology, for our societies, and our global relationships. The technological boom of the 21st century would have unfolded, but its applications might have been different. The immense government investment in surveillance technology, facial recognition, data mining algorithms, drone surveillance would have been significantly smaller. Instead, that research and development capital could have been directed toward other areas. Maybe we would be further along in developing green energy technologies, personalized medicine, technologies aimed at bridging the digital divide in developing nations. Contemplating a history that never was is more than a mere academic exercise. This journey into an alternate timeline, one where the tragedy of 9/11 did not occur, serves a vital purpose. It allows us to see our own world with greater clarity. By removing a pivotal event, we can better trace the contours of its impact, our institutions, our culture, and our collective psyche. This what-if thinking reveals the critical junctures in history, the moments where the path of humanity could have diverged. It underscores how single events can send ripples across decades, defining the challenges and opportunities for entire generations. This exploration highlights the immense fragility of peace and the interconnectedness of our global community. The world before September 11th, 2001 was not without its dangers or injustices, but it operated on a different set of assumptions about security and stability.